In this video, I'm going to discuss the fact that there was a classification of Europeans. I found this to be very interesting because when the history of colonial times is often told, we always assume that the Europeans were just one class, and then there were the Indians, and then the other people follow. But turns out, even among the Europeans, there were classes, of course. But the point is that that fact often is ignored when we are talking about the society that existed in East Africa Protectorate and the Kenyan colony. We always assume that all Europeans were treated the same. When you read this book that I'm reading now, The East Africa Protectorate by one Sir Charles Eliot, some details emerge that are very interesting. And this is one of the details that I've seen in this book. Now, Sir Charles Eliot was what was known as the Commissioner of British East Africa. And this was like the highest office on the land that was then known as the East Africa Protectorate, and that is the land that, of course, became the Kenyan colony, and later on, of course, it became the Republic of Kenya. Now, he served in that office from 1902 to 1904, then he resigned, and then he publishes this book in 1905. This is a very detailed book, and it talks about different things, and one of the things he talks about, of course, is the people and the politics and the moving of Europeans into the land and getting land and doing farming. But then, of course, there are small details that are very interesting, like realizing that some Europeans were considered to be low class. And in fact, he uses a word like that, this low class Europeans. And he seemed to have been disgusted by that class of Europeans. He seemed to have had very little regard for them in the way he talks about them, and he mentions them in several places in the book, including a part where he says that the poor Europeans were basically ruining the protectorate, because some of them were coming and they did not have enough money, and then will get land, and then at some point will start intermingling with especially the Indians, and then they will start taking credit from the Indians, which was not for people who, especially Sir Charles Eliot and people like him, to whom image was everything, because they understood that it's through image that you control people. That was not good. That was not good. Now, I'm going to read a part of the book where he talks about some Europeans who went to Mount Elgon, and this is what he says. He says, "If we had 2 new stations in Kenya and 2 more in Lumbu and Kosovo, I think our administration will be adequately represented upcountry. We might perhaps have another in Western Nandi and another in Northern Ukamba, but they are less necessary than those first indicated. I may add that I think the country to the north of Mount Elgon requires attention, as it has become the resort of dangerous riffraff composed of Swahilis and low-class Europeans. The territory belongs to Uganda, but it is on the border of the 2 protectorates, and both are interested in maintaining order." So it seems like there were these riffraffs, he calls them, who were mostly Swahilis and low-class Europeans who were moving about in the Mount Elgon region. And Sir Charles Eliot thought that it was important for a station to be put there to control these people, to bring them in order, to make them follow the law or behave appropriately. So this use of the word low-class Europeans does not appear just here. He uses it on several parts of the book, or in several parts of the book. And it left me with this impression that actually there were different classes of British Europeans on the land. There were those who were of a higher class, and there were those who were ordinary people. And the higher class Europeans used to have a problem with the low-class Europeans, because to a large extent, they were worried about them ruining the image of the white man. Those are my random thoughts.